What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you again once more. As usual, I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you on this fine day that we're having. And of course, before we get to those slides, I want to issue a copyright disclaimer for the copywritten material that's going to be shared here in this here post. Alright, so yeah, without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright, now for those who wanted to notice but can't notice, apparently the K in Judah video has been taken down, and they say, we think your content did follow our hate speech policy. Well, there's a big problem, right? Because they're speaking as if my video was some sort of an hypothetical occurrence or something, right? That they could not establish, right? They could not establish if my video was violating their so-called hate speech or not. But hey, they are doing this to protect you. Yeah. Right? Business inside Africa, right? They are reporting as if it's some sort of funeral. Yeah, they can ban the export of resources just like any other sovereign country. These are the new reports that are coming out of the numbers, right? Americans, behold, thy works. Yeah, wrestling is big for thousands of years. In Uganda, of course, connected to the Congo sports, this specific sport. Yeah. A lot of words are being thrown around. Let's just say that. Erupts, they say. They just need you to look away. Of course, you can't catch a break. That's the plan for Lebanon. Well, a dangerous game is being played here. Right? And of course, the AES and Tanzania have to pay attention to this one. So, in their G7 situation, Ruth was invited, and of course, President of Egypt was also invited. Right? And somebody repeated exactly what I said. If they had to give up Egypt, that means they have to also give up Israel. You get my drift? So this is just not only a historical revision, but it has much bigger implications than people think. So they're reviving this whole conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt pertaining to the Nile. So let's see what the French people have been doing. France and Mali pro-independence rebels, a history shaped by alliance and mutual interests. Okay? Bamako's military junta has accused Paris of surrounding Azawad Liberation, of supporting the Azawad Liberation Front, ALF, which launched an offensive in northern Mali at the end of April. These claims are based on the French authorities' historical ties and ties with the pro-independence rebel groups. Through those connections have since though those connections have since weakened. So they are calling those terrorists that killed hundreds of people pro-independent movements, right? The phrasing is crucial. So this is one of their leaders of these terrorist groups. Of course, as you can see, he's in Paris, France in 29 April 2026, right after killing the Minister of Defense in the AES, giving airtime, desperate measures, desperate times, yeah. Rebel leader Bigil al-Sharif, European trip, risk X Bamako. This was last year, okay? So it's not a new phenomenon, so you know. Okay, so let's have a read. The unprecedented partnership has raised question about France's possible involvement in these missions. However, the pro-independence group's leader have denied that France played any role in their rapprochement with Kiev. We are in contact with the intelligence service from various countries. Okay? What they do or say to each other is not our concern. As for France, it provides us with no material or financial support. So they provide material and financial support, said an LAF official. That was not always the case. France, which once ruled over Mali as a former colonial power, has deep ties to the country's Tuareg population. When Iyad al-whatever, who is now the head of JNIM, another rebel group, led a rebellion in Mali in the early 1990s, the historically nomadic northern Malian Tuareg community, which had been neglected by a successful Malian government, benefited from a degree of sympathy in France, manufactured sympathy, that is, right? The Daniel Material France Liberation Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to defending human rights, okay, there goes that word, and oppressed people, another word, which was founded by the wife of the former president, played a part in this support. Okay, so they have even the wife's president involved in this terroristic activity. So let's proceed. Yet French Tuareg networks also extend beyond the civilian sphere. In the second half of the 2000s, French Foreign Intelligence Agency, the GTE, relied on members of this community, right, the Tuareg, and particularly Ifoas tribe, which was, again, to gather intelligence on northern Mali. Okay, they try to make it a tribal thing, but it's not. Okay, it's not. It's just greed. Okay, it's just greed. Okay, but they have to make it a group so as they can call them an independence group, right? But they're just criminals, right? Just like in Nigeria, right? They're just criminals. They want their independence, right? Or in South Africa, and particularly the Ifogas tribe, which was to gather intelligence in northern Mali, where Algerian jihadists had established Al-Qaeda and Islamic Maghreb, AQM. They had agents on the ground among the Tuareg collecting intelligence on the emerging terrorist networks, said a Malian officer who has been deployed in the region for many years. These connections proved useful for Paris at key moments in the region's history, such as in 2011, when President Nicolas Sarkozy intervened in Libya against Muammar Gaddafi's regime. Intervened, another word, which had hundreds of Malian Tuareg fighters in its army. Okay, again, they are nomadic. Again, like I said in the previous video, if you want to understand the history of Africa, it begins there. Farmers and herdsmen. Okay? And all of these tribes that are found all over the place, right? The Tuareg people are not just localized to that area, they're everywhere. Again, they are nomadic. Okay? At the time, the French conveyed the message to us as if we abandoned Gaddafi. They wouldn't help us in our fight for independence of Azawad. The term used by the separatists to refer to northern Mali, said a former rebel. For them, it was a win-win move. It allowed them to weaken their enemy while giving them a future lever influence with us. Okay? So scratch my back, scratch your back, right? So the Tuareg went over there and overthrown Gaddafi, and now the French owe them. That's what they're saying. Okay? Mali Tuareg rebels say Russian fighters must withdraw from country. Okay? So what are they? Rebels, independent, pro-independence, whatever. When Goita junta rose to power in 2020, it changed everything. The French army was expelled from Mali 2 years later, and Paris lost many information sources in the country's north. Why is the country's north so important to France? Just like a person said, right? These Islamist group, they seem to have very selective outrage, right? They have this selective outrage where it might seem like you pay them to be outraged or something, right? French military and diplomatic officials are now forced to observe Mali from a distance, yet behind the detached rhetoric, one fact is clear. It is difficult for France to completely sever its ties with a country that once featured a sphere of influence in Africa, right? Its sphere of influence in Africa. So, colony, right? One where it has invested heavily. No, let's not call that investment. Sorry. In recent years, in the Sahel region, an area that has become one of the global epicenter of jihadi, right? So all of these years you invested while knowing the epicenter of jihadism, right? In this respect, France's long-standing ties with the ALF, pro-independence rebel, remains vital for it, right? This is what they're saying. Sahel unites against Macron. So now you understand what is happening. Okay? And this is them, right? Saying all of this, that the ALF, which is connected to JNIM, terrorists, killing people front and center in Mali. They are aligned with the French. They're giving them, like I said, interviews and airtimes and everything. They are crying for their independence. We shall circle back to this matter because there are new developments apparently. Yeah. European Commission on a mission to craft tools to tackle what the bloc sees as China industrial excesses. Okay. Good luck with the so-called Plaza Accords. Yeah, Bagamoyo is far yet near yet crucial. Wakazi wa eneo lile watupiwe macho. Bila hivyo ile eneo lote lile kuna watu watajimegea kule na kufanya kama kautawala kao fulani hivi. The whole world would be against it. Rubio on Hormuz transit fees. Yeah, you gotta pay them fees now. Trump directs DOJ to investigate oil companies over. You see these people and the games they are playing, brothers and sisters. You see these two cowards here, and these other ones, right? This is what the liquid minister says. Turkey and Syria far more concerning than Iran. Okay. So for those who are saying the Syrians are in the pockets of the West and America, please. What's the concern for? And yet Trump has been calling on the Syrian peoples to fight the Iranians and the Iraqis too. Anybody. Okay? Europe to phase out China-made inverters. Right. Putin's missile leaves radioactive trail. Right? They are covering this now. Right? This missile was announced a long time ago. Right? And below, of course, the jellyfish drone conversation. Right? I don't want to even get into it. Right? So, what are the developments that have been happening in the AES? So, buying mercenaries, buying fighters, right? Not just the Tuareg, okay? Anybody that can be bought, right? People might get this impression that every Tuareg is out there in the bushes fighting for independence. No, that's not the case. These are just paid mercenaries, okay? And now this time they're using politicians, the oppositions to be specific, okay? And of course there is also talk of Ukraine, right? So the Ukrainians are offering their support, right? This is how they appease the French gods, by playing their dirty game, by contributing to their benefit, right? Because in no way the Ukrainian war is benefiting France. So what do? They hire mercenaries from Ukraine to do their dirty work. Okay, what are we talking about? Well, we are talking about drones, right? There is even promises that the European governments will support this, right? This iniquity here, right? So they're offering financial, material, and political support to the opposition so as they can overthrow the governments. So add 1 plus 1, I think you can figure out the answer. And of course, what is happening in Tanzania now, I'm observing. I'm not blind to it. I'm seeing everything, right? The plans that I'm making, right? 7/7. That's another assault, right? They know that on the 7th of the 7th, it's a very big deal in Tanzania when it comes to trade. So again, more financial warfare, right? And in the case of Mali, it's more about just finding more fighters, injecting more weapons, and of course online propaganda. That's what they have left. Okay, now Tanzania, tia maji, mimi ndo nachoweza kuambia, kwa sababu hata hapa wanawatumia upinzani, the same people, the so-called European governments, and like the AFL terrorists said, they are in connection, or rather having conversations with a lot of security agencies in the world, right? So I'm talking Mossad, CIA, MI6, the French intelligence, everybody conspiring against the Israelites. Again, well, whatever you plan for us, it's gonna come back to you. Just so you know. It's gonna come back to you. Hard. That's how it is. So yeah, this is what we are dealing with. So again, they are opportunistic, right? They are opportunistic hunters. They don't give chase, right? They are working as a group, but they are highly opportunistic. So they exploit the vulnerabilities that are within society. So they might use religion, Christianity or Islam. If that fail, then Muungano. If that fail, then it's Chadema always. So yeah, go figure that. Again, free will. I'll be right here observing what will unfold in the coming days. But yeah, the operation is on. Let's just say that. So I'm not go on for long. I'm gonna put a pin on it right there, and of course we are gonna conversate the next time we conversate. Right, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there. Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.